Hey everyone! Welcome back to the English Connect podcast, the place where we learn English through conversations that actually mean something. I'm Sophia, and next to me, as always, is the one and only Jason.
Hey, Sophia. Hey, everyone. Great to be here. Sophia, before we get into today's topic, you look like someone who has something on her mind.
Jason, I had a conversation last week that I have not been able to shake. A friend of mine, smart, talented, full of ideas, told me she had always wanted to apply for a job abroad, a position that would have changed her life. She never applied. And when I asked her why, she said, I was scared it wouldn't work out.
Ouch.
And then she said the thing that stayed with me. She said, I think I'm more afraid of failure than I am of regret. And I just sat with that for a moment. Because I wonder if she's right. I wonder if most of us make that trade without realizing it.
We choose the pain that feels smaller in the moment.
Yes. Fear is loud and immediate. Regret is quiet and slow. So we silence the loud thing, and the quiet thing grows for years.
This is such an important thing to examine, because I think we walk around believing we're being cautious, being responsible, being realistic. And what we're actually doing is making a very specific trade, present discomfort for future emptiness.
And the cruel irony is that the fear you avoid today doesn't disappear. It just transforms into something heavier, into regret, into wondering, into the question that has no answer. What if?
What if is one of the most painful sentences a person can live inside.
Today's episode is called Would You Rather Face Fear or Live with Regret? And we're not here to tell you fear is easy to face. We're here to be honest about both, about what each one costs, and about how to make a choice you can actually live with.
Here's what we have for you today. Sophia and I are going to have a real conversation about fear and regret, what they actually feel like, how they work on us differently, and what it takes to choose one over the other.
Then we'll break down 5 vocabulary words and phrases from today's conversation.
And we'll close with a challenge. One small, specific thing you can do today to start answering the question for yourself.
And here's our question for you right now as we begin. Is there something you have been putting off because of fear? Something you know you want, but haven't moved toward? Keep it in mind. We're talking to that today.
Let's go.
Okay, Jason, let's start with fear, because I think it deserves to be understood before it's judged. When we feel fear about something, a conversation we need to have, a risk we want to take, a thing we want to try, what is actually happening?
Fear is fundamentally protective. It evolved to keep us safe. When our ancestors heard a sound in the dark, fear said, stop, assess, don't move until you know it's okay. That was useful. That saved lives.
But the problem is that our nervous system cannot fully distinguish between a lion in the grass and a job application.
Exactly. The body produces the same response. Heart rate increases, breathing shifts. A voice in your head says, don't. And in that moment, retreat feels like wisdom. It feels like listening to your instincts.
But the lion was going to eat you. The job application was not.
Right. The stakes are completely different, but the alarm is the same volume.
So the first thing we have to learn to do is ask, is this fear protecting me from genuine danger, or is this fear protecting me from discomfort? Because those two things require completely different responses.
And the answer to that question changes everything. Because if it's genuine danger, you stop. But if it's discomfort, you breathe and you go anyway.
Going anyway. That phrase sounds simple. It is not simple. Can you talk about what it actually costs to face fear? Because I don't want us to be the podcast that says, just do the scary thing, without acknowledging that the scary thing is actually scary.
Thank you for saying that, because I think the way fear is talked about in motivational content is often so breezy. Feel the fear and do it anyway. And that's true as advice goes, but it doesn't capture what you're feeling in your body when you're about to do the thing you're terrified of.
Describe it.
There's a physical weight to it, a tightness, a voice that is incredibly specific and incredibly convincing, that says you are not ready, you will embarrass yourself, this will go wrong. And the voice doesn't sound like a liar. It sounds like the most rational, honest part of you.
And it's usually loudest right before you do the thing.
Right at the threshold, right when it would be easiest to turn around. That's when it gets loudest. And what I found, and this is through actual experience, not theory, is that the voice quiets down the moment you step through, not before, after.
The relief is on the other side of the action, not the other side of the decision. You can decide to do something brave 1,000 times and feel no relief until you actually do it.
Which is why people who faced fear a lot will tell you the anticipation is always worse than the event. Not always by a little, often by an enormous amount.
Now, let's talk about regret, because I think regret is misunderstood too, but in a different way. People think regret is just sadness about the past, but it's more active than that, isn't it?
Regret is a conversation that never ends. It's not a feeling you have once and then move past. It stays open. It reopens. 5 years later, 10 years later, something triggers it and you're back in it, fully, painfully back in it.
Research actually shows that people regret inaction more than action. The things they didn't do, didn't say, didn't try, those haunt more than the things they did that went wrong.
Because with action, even failed action, there's closure. You tried. You know what happened. You have information. You can adapt. But with inaction, the story stays open. The alternate version of your life keeps existing, somewhere in your imagination, unbounded by reality.
The imagined life you didn't live is always perfect. It never has setbacks or complications. It's just the glowing, ideal version of what might have been. And you compare your real, complicated, imperfect life to that.
And your real life always loses that comparison.
Which is why regret is so corrosive. You're not comparing two real things. You're comparing your reality to a fantasy, and you can never win that comparison.
So when you're weighing fear against regret, you have to understand what you're actually weighing. Fear is real, but temporary. The moment you move through it, it begins to dissolve. Regret is also real, but it has no natural expiration. It can compound over decades.
Fear is a wall. Regret is a room you live in.
That's a powerful way to put it.
The wall is solid, and it's in your way, and it is genuinely hard to climb. But on the other side of it, there is open space. Whereas the room of regret is warm and familiar, and there are no walls to climb, but you're also not going anywhere.
And the longer you live in the room, the more it feels like home. That's the danger. You stop noticing you're trapped because it becomes your normal.
So how do you actually choose? How do you make the choice to face the fear instead of accepting the regret, especially when the fear is genuinely difficult?
I think it starts with an honest question. And the question is not, what do I want? Because often we know what we want. The question is, who do I want to be in 10 years? Not what you want to have, who you want to be.
Because our future self is a real person. A person who will live with the consequences of every choice we make today. And that person either gets to say, I tried, it was hard, here's what I learned. Or they get to say, I wonder, I always wonder.
Which version of yourself do you want to hand the years to?
That question has changed how I make decisions. When I'm standing in front of something I'm afraid of, I try to ask, which version of this moment will my future self be more at peace with? The version where I tried, regardless of outcome, or the version where I didn't?
And almost always, not always, but almost always, the answer is try.
Because even if it doesn't work, you have something. You have the knowledge that you showed up, that you didn't let fear write the whole story, that you gave yourself the chance. And that has a dignity to it that living with what if does not.
There's one more thing I want to say about this, and it's something I've learned the hard way. Fear doesn't go away because you become braver. It goes away because you practice walking through it. And every time you walk through it, you build something. Evidence. Internal proof that you can survive discomfort. That fear doesn't kill you.
You're building a record of your own courage.
A record no one can take from you. And it becomes your most reliable resource in the next moment of fear. Because you can look at the record and say, I have done hard things. I have walked through the wall before. I can do it again.
Whereas a record of avoidance gives you the opposite. Every time you chose the room over the wall, you added evidence that the wall is unclimbable, that you're not the kind of person who climbs it.
And the choice compounds in both directions.
In both directions. every act of courage makes the next one more possible. Every act of avoidance makes the next one more likely. You are always, with every choice, voting for the person you are becoming.
So vote wisely.
All right, everyone, let's look at 5 words and phrases from today's conversation to help sharpen your English.
First, corrosive.
Meaning, corrosive describes something that slowly destroys or damages from within, over time. Not suddenly, but quietly and steadily. We used it to describe regret, because regret doesn't cause sharp, obvious pain the way fear does. Instead, it works in the background, eating away at your peace, your confidence, and your sense of possibility, often without you noticing until significant damage has already been done.
Example sentence. The resentment he never addressed became corrosive over time, quietly damaging relationships he had once valued deeply.
Number 2, inaction.
Meaning, inaction means the state of not doing something, choosing not to act when action was possible. It is different from rest or recovery. In today's context, inaction is the avoidance of something meaningful out of fear. Research consistently shows that people regret inaction more than action. The things they didn't do haunt them more than the things they tried that went wrong.
Example sentence. Her biggest career regret wasn't the job that didn't work out. It was the one she never applied for. The regret of inaction outlasted the regret of failure.
Number 3, threshold.
Meaning, a threshold is a point of entry, the place where one space ends and another begins, like a doorway. We used it to describe the moment right before you do something frightening, when you've decided but haven't yet acted. The threshold is where fear is loudest and most convincing. It is also where courage matters most. Most people who turn back from difficult things turn back at the threshold, not before deciding, but after.
Example sentence. She stood at the threshold of the conversation for 3 days, ready to say what she needed to say, terrified of what might change, until she finally chose to speak.
Number 4, compound, used here as a verb.
Meaning, to compound means to grow or increase through accumulation, each addition building on what came before, like interest on a loan. We used it to describe how both courage and avoidance multiply over time. Every brave choice makes the next brave choice slightly more possible. Every fearful retreat makes the next retreat slightly more likely. The effect builds in whichever direction you are moving, which is why the direction matters so much.
Example sentence. Small daily acts of honesty compounded over years into a reputation for integrity that became his most valuable professional quality.
And finally, number 5, alternate version.
Meaning, an alternate version refers to a different possible reality, the life that could have existed if different choices had been made. In the context of regret, the alternate version is the imagined life you didn't live, the career you didn't pursue, the relationship you didn't risk, the city you never moved to. Crucially, this alternate version is always idealized, free of the complications, setbacks, and imperfections that your real life contains. And that is exactly what makes it so painful to compare yourself to it.
Example sentence. He had spent years constructing an alternate version of his life in his mind, the one where he had taken the risk, without realizing he was comparing a real, imperfect life to a perfect fiction.
Jason, how are you feeling after that conversation?
Honestly, I want to go do the thing I've been putting off, which I think means we did something right.
That is the goal. Not inspiration that fades by tomorrow morning, something that moves you today.
So here is your challenge, and it is concrete and doable, and we want you to do it today.
Write down the thing you've been avoiding because of fear, the specific one, not in general, specifically. What is it? What are you afraid will happen if you try?
Then write this question. In 10 years, which will hurt more? Having tried and failed, or never having tried at all?
And then, this is important, write one small step you could take this week toward the thing you're afraid of. Not the whole journey. One step. Something small enough that fear cannot talk you out of it.
And come tell us in the comments, what is the thing? What is the one step? We read them. We root for you.
Because naming the fear out loud is already part of facing it. Giving it a name takes some of its power. You cannot fight something you haven't looked at.
If this conversation landed somewhere real today, share this episode with someone who needs it, someone who is standing at the threshold of something and hasn't stepped through yet.
Subscribe, leave us a review, and stay with us. New conversations every week.
And here is what we want you to carry with you. Fear is a wall. Regret is a room. The wall is hard to climb, but on the other side is open space. The room is comfortable, but it is not freedom. You get to choose which one you live in, and the choice is always now. Not when you feel ready, not when the fear is smaller. Now, exactly as frightened as you are. The person you want to become is on the other side of the wall, not waiting for you to be fearless, waiting for you to be brave enough to try anyway. Face the fear. Write the next chapter.